The sun was sinking low over the wild western plains, casting long shadows that crawled like ghosts across the ground. The wind carried the scent of dust, leather, and distant thunder, whispering secrets of the land that had seen too much blood and sorrow. Along the dirt road leading into Red Bluff, the widow stumbled, her dress torn, her face streaked with dirt and tears. Two rough men dragged her by the arms, their boots grinding into the soil as if crushing mercy itself beneath them. Her hat had fallen long ago, and strands of her hair clung to her damp forehead as she struggled to stay upright. The townsfolk peeked from behind shutters and half-opened doors, but no one stepped out. Fear ruled Red Bluff now, fear of the men who worked for the ranch baron that owned half the county. The widow had refused to sell her small patch of land by the creek, the only green stretch for miles, and that refusal was enough to mark her for ruin. The men pulled her forward, laughing, their cruel words cutting through the silence like spurs against bone. "Should have listened when we told you," one hissed, jerking her arm so hard she winced. "Now look at you, lady, dragged through the dust like you belong in it." The other man spat, then grabbed a handful of her dress to haul her forward again. But through the haze of pain and humiliation, she heard something, a gasp, soft and frightened, from near the fence post. Two small boys stood there, identical, with hair the color of wheat and eyes bright as the Texas sky. They couldn't have been more than 6. They were the twins, the sons of the man known around Red Bluff as the Quiet Gun. Their father was a cowboy who kept to himself, a man who'd once lived by the iron at his hip but now tried to live by the plow and the mercy of the Lord. The widow had seen him once, fixing a fence under the noonday sun, his silence like stone, his strength like scripture, and now his son stood frozen, fists clenched, watching her being dragged through the dirt. The men sneered at them, one of them laughing cruelly. "Go home, little colts," he barked, "before we give you the same lesson." But one of the boys, his small jaw tight with courage, shouted, "Let her go." His brother joined in, trembling but defiant. "You're hurting her." The words cut through the air sharper than any bullet, and for a heartbeat the men hesitated, just long enough for the wind to shift. The low rumble of hooves came from beyond the ridge, steady and growing louder, like the earth itself was answering the call of justice. The men turned their heads, and that was when the figure appeared, tall in the saddle, hat pulled low, dust rising behind him like the tail of a comet. He was the cowboy the twins called Daddy. He rode slow at first, calm as the storm before lightning strikes, his eyes fixed on the scene ahead. When his sons saw him, they ran toward him, their voices breaking with relief. "Daddy, they hurt the lady!" one cried, pointing back at the men. The cowboy reined his horse to a stop, his shadow falling over them all like judgment. He dismounted without a word, his boots landing heavy on the ground, spurs jingling softly like death's quiet music. The men stiffened. They knew that walk, that silence. They knew who he was. "We don't want trouble, Cole," one said quickly, lifting his hands halfway. "Just teaching her a lesson for Mr. Harlan." The cowboy's eyes narrowed, cold, calm, dangerous. He didn't speak for a long time, just stared until both men began to sweat. Then he said in a voice low as thunder, "You lay a hand on her again and you won't walk away to tell Harlan what happened." The taller man barked a nervous laugh. "You think you can scare us? You're outnumbered." The cowboy took one step closer, his hand resting on the worn handle of his revolver. "One of you," he said evenly, "ain't gonna leave this road. You choose who." The air went still. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The widow, still on her knees, looked up through dust and tears, unable to speak. The two men backed up, glancing at each other, their bravado draining away. "You'll regret this," one muttered, retreating. The cowboy didn't answer. He just watched until the men mounted their horses and galloped off, their silhouettes swallowed by the fading sun. When they were gone, he turned to the widow. For a moment, neither spoke. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled, and he caught her before she fell. His hands were rough but gentle, like a man used to both breaking horses and mending hearts. "You're safe now," he said quietly, helping her to her feet. "They won't touch you again." She tried to thank him, but her voice broke. The twins came running, their small faces full of tears. "Daddy," one said, looking up at the widow, "she's hurt. Can we take her home?" The cowboy hesitated. His ranch was a quiet place, far from gossip and strangers. But when he looked at the widow, her courage, her exhaustion, the way she held herself even in pain, something stirred deep in him. Something he thought he'd buried alongside his past. "Get the wagon," he told his boys. "We'll take her home." The twins sprinted off, excited, while he helped her walk to the shade of a cottonwood tree. She tried to apologize for the trouble, but he shook his head. "You did nothing wrong," he said. "In this land, good people suffer because cowards obey the powerful." His voice carried a quiet sadness, the kind that only comes from losing more than a man should. As the twins brought the wagon, the widow climbed in slowly and the cowboy took the reins. The road home stretched long and lonely, bathed in the red glow of the dying sun. The twins sat in the back beside her, watching her with innocent concern. One of them leaned close and whispered shyly, "Don't cry, miss. Daddy will make it all better." She smiled faintly, brushing the dust from her cheek. "Your daddy's a brave man," she said softly. "You should be proud." The other twin grinned, his missing tooth showing. "We are, and when you get better—" He paused, glancing at his brother before saying it with childlike certainty. "We'll ask Daddy to marry you." The words hit the air like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The cowboy stiffened, caught off guard, while the widow's eyes widened, a flush rising to her cheeks. "Boys," he said, half smiling despite himself. "That's not something you just decide." But the twins only giggled, nodding confidently. "You need someone to smile at you again, Daddy, and she needs someone to protect her." The road rolled on, the night creeping closer, and though no one spoke for a while, the silence was no longer empty. At the ranch, he helped her down, guiding her into the small cabin where the fire still glowed warm. The twins brought blankets and water, fussing like little nurses. The widow sat near the hearth, eyes shimmering in the firelight. "I'll be gone by morning," she said quietly. "I won't trouble you longer." But the cowboy shook his head. "You'll stay till you're well." "That's not trouble." Outside, the wind picked up again, brushing the dry grass like a lullaby. The twins curled up by the fire, whispering plans about the future they already imagined. How their daddy and the widow would make their ranch full of laughter again. How no one would ever hurt her anymore. The cowboy sat in the corner, cleaning his revolver, staring into the flames with a heart he thought had gone cold. But tonight, it felt alive again. When the widow finally fell asleep, he stepped outside, the moon hanging silver above the prairie. He thought of what his boys said, of how their innocent hearts saw what his own fear would not let him admit. That maybe, after all the loss, after all the silence, he was being given a second chance. He looked back through the window, saw her sleeping peacefully for the first time in months, and something deep in him whispered that maybe this wild, cruel land still had a little grace left in it. And as the first coyotes howled in the distance, the cowboy tipped his hat to the night sky and murmured, "Maybe my boys are right." The wind carried the words away, but somewhere far beyond the hills, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. So, partner, if you believe that even in the roughest dust storms of life, love can ride in unexpected and true, then stay with us. Because more stories of courage, love, and redemption are just ahead. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and ride with us through the next tale of the untamed West, where every sunset hides a story worth telling.